In this episode of the podcast, I am going to rant really quickly about what the podcast is going to be about. It's not an actual episode. Enjoy! Welcome to The Generalist, a show with a man who knows very little bit about a lot. A man who specializes in nothing in particular. A man who knows that he knows nothing. A man who can be described as non-specific. And to top it off, he narrates his own intros. This is The Generalist with your host, Saul Ackerman. Hello and welcome to The Generalist, episode 0. This is not an actual episode of the podcast, more like a general intro to the podcast. I wanted to give you guys an idea of what the podcast is going to be about, and also talk a little bit about how it came to be, why I decided to do it, and give any other tidbits of information that need to be given that I don't want to necessarily spend time in the main episodes doing. You don't have to listen to this episode at all. You can go ahead and skip it, but if you're interested in a little bit of the background, here it is. I first thought about doing the podcast after listening to many podcasts. A couple of the things that really inspired me were a few different podcasters. Firstly and foremostly, I would have to give credit to Dan Carlin, who is both a history podcaster as well as a current events podcaster. He made me fall in love with podcasts in the first place. He's unbelievable. Definitely check him out. The other two are Daniele Bolelli and Duncan Trussell from The Drunken Taoist and Duncan Trussell Family Hour, respectively. Also, credit is due to Pete Holmes from the You Made It Weird, who also is one of my inspirations in podcasting. All of them have repeatedly said that it's easy to do and that anybody who wants to do it should pick it up, so here I am picking it up. One more piece of big credit is due to a gentleman by the name of Graham Hancock, who is an author, and he wrote a book called Magicians of the Gods about the possibility of advanced civilizations existing before we thought they did. And in an interview with, I believe it was Daniele Bolelli, he had mentioned that an archaeologist had talked down about him because he wasn't an archaeologist and he thought he was. And Graham Hancock responded, "I don't want to be an archaeologist. I never pretended to be. I'm a generalist. I look at things from a wide point of view instead of a small point of view." And, well, you could see where the name came from there. I think it's very important to look at things from a wider perspective instead of the vacuum perspective that we always get in our studies nowadays. And I like to take a look at things in a wider lens. So I'm going to talk to people, and that's not to say that specialists don't have something to add as well. In fact, I think we owe a lot to specialists because we wouldn't have gotten as far as we've gotten without them. But that is no reason to ignore the general view, the more wide view. One can perhaps sometimes make better decisions because they have information that comes from all sorts of different views and subjects and thoughts, as opposed to just looking at everything from one point of view. And that's really why I want to do this podcast. In terms of format, I think what we're going to do is interviews. So far I've recorded about 8. 3 will be released along with this episode. They're just going to be kind of conversations more than interviews. We're just going to be talking back and forth about the subject at hand. Sometimes we'll digress and move into other things and jump back. But wherever our conversation takes us is where we'll go. Although there will be a general subject that I want to talk about, and I'll probably keep on jumping back to that. That's what I've noticed mostly with the conversations I've had thus far. Occasionally, we'll just be shooting the shit with some people, and there won't be necessarily a particular subject. Sometimes we may go overtime. I want to keep it to more or less an hour, give or take. If we go way too far over and I can't edit it down to one episode because there's too much good stuff in there, then maybe I'll break it down into 2 and release it one week after the other. As of right now, I'm only releasing every other week. So if I have an episode like that, I'll release it the week immediately after. So it would be an off week anyway, and you'll still get your episode the following week. Sometimes, if it's relevant, I will have a short intro right before we get to the interview. If it's a historical thing or something that requires some background, or not that requires some background, but that I feel like giving some background for, I will have a short, usually 4 to 5 minute intro to the episode after the theme song, but right before the actual interview. Other than that, if you like the show, make sure to share it with people, rate us on iTunes. All that gets us higher up so we can get the show further out there, so we can do a little bit better, maybe at one point get some advertisers so that we can make some money and improve the quality of the show as we go. Check out our website at thegeneralistpodcast@gmail.com. I always do that. Check out our website at thegeneralistpodcast.com and our email at thegeneralistpodcast@gmail.com. Check us on Twitter at thegeneralistpc. And enjoy the podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Hopefully we'll have some... there's ways to donate on our website under the donation link, tab, whatever you call it. But we will hopefully have some Amazon links that you can go to Amazon and buy stuff from Amazon the same stuff you would buy no matter what, and we would get a kickback if you use the link that we have. We should have that up hopefully today, being the day you get this podcast. If not, by tomorrow we should have that up. We would really appreciate if you do some Amazon shopping when you're going to do it anyway through our link. It doesn't cost you anything. We'll just get a small kickback for it. And hopefully we'll have an Audacity link also, but we'll see. Otherwise, keep checking on the website, see what happens, keep listening. We'll keep on updating you as it goes. Thank you so much for listening. This is Saul Ackerman, and this is The Generalist.